It's so wonderful to be together with you all. Starting as we usually do with a question that's come in advance, we'll then open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. I'm very bad at maintaining relationships, especially among friends and family. It's because I really don't care much about their lives. I am more concerned about myself, underprivileged people, and society as a whole. But this results in extreme loneliness. I don't have anyone to talk to on a personal, intimate level. How to tackle this loneliness. So first of all, we need to realize that our commitment to the society, to the community, to the world, includes our friends and family members. There's no teaching that says, thou shalt be in the seva of the world, minus your family and friends. Thou shalt dedicate oneself to the community, except, of course, for anybody you know or are related to. It doesn't say that. What the teaching says is, don't think that those are the only world. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit your caring only to those who live under your four walls, or only those who you consider my people, us. But it certainly doesn't say exclude them. And what we get sometimes is this spiritual disconnection that arises from almost a very subtle spiritual arrogance. There's this sense of, I'm not interested in you. I don't have time for you because I'm in the service of the world. I remember when I first was going to take sannyas, because typically in India, where sannyas is where India is the land where this culture of sannyas has come from, or we have, in the Buddhist monastic traditions, you've got other Eastern countries where their monastic tradition has come from. But it's these lands of the East in which that sannyas parampara, that tradition, has come from. And what you have in the land of the East is a real understanding amongst the society of the value of our monastics, of the sannyasis. So even though in a family, obviously, parents' hearts, any color, any race, any religion, any region. But nonetheless, in India, for example, there's always this great cultural support. If a family member takes sannyas, even though the family themselves may miss that person, there's this whole respect and reverence and support in the community that says, wow, matlab, what a blessing that in your family, now you have a sadhu sant in your family. Now you have this saint in your family. I mean, it's huge. But in the West, that doesn't exist. And I remember when I was going to take sannyas, talking to Pujya Swamiji about this tradition in India where once you've taken sannyas, you really pretty much don't talk to your family. That all of those relationships are really cut off. And he said, but not for you. He said, first of all, your parents living in Los Angeles are not doing anything that impedes your spiritual life here in Rishikesh. It's not like they're micromanaging your day-to-day life or asking anything of you. They had no demands on me. He said, but also, when you are dedicating yourself now to seva of the world, it doesn't mean seva of the world minus those who gave you birth. They live in a culture in which if suddenly you stop speaking to them, instead of being respected, people are going to think, my God, what did you do? That your own daughter would, now not talk to you? Like, people would think, my God, you must have done something. And of course, they had been amazing, wonderful, beautiful parents. So I mention this because when you take sannyas, it's a dedication to a service of the world. No discrimination, no bhed-bhav. But it's not the world minus your family. Especially when you come from a culture like I did, where that family would actually be deeply hurt if you cut off ties. And I mention this here because as the questioner says, I'm not interested in them. I'm much more interested in the greater good. Well, your family is part of the greater good. Your family is part of the society, of the community. So that care that we give to the community, to the world, we also should give it to our own family and friends. Not being interested in them is actually, it's a way of cutting yourself off, and that's why you feel lonely. I mean, one of the greatest and most powerful spiritual tenets is compassion. We're taught to have compassion for the tiniest animals. I was telling a story the other night about His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who kept bending down to save little caterpillars. Well, if we are supposed to have love and compassion, caring for the tiniest little creatures, what God, what spiritual tradition would say, oh, you should really care about the caterpillar, but your parents, forget them. Care about the ant, care about the mosquito. But don't care about your family or friends. That's not a path that makes any spiritual sense. The teaching is, don't only care about your family and friends. Recognize that the caterpillar, the ant, the mosquito, the homeless people, the disadvantaged ones, they are also your family. They're not separate from you. But neither are those who do live in your home, who are of your blood. So do some introspection and really ask yourself, why am I cutting myself off from them? Why am I pushing myself into a place of loneliness? Because deep connection is one of the most important things in life. It's one of the greatest and most powerful paths, avenues, tools, keys to deep fulfillment. And so the spiritual path is not to be cutting out connections. The spiritual path is to be creating more and more connections. So it's not, I don't care about my family. It's, I now care about this caterpillar as though he were my family. I now care about the homeless person as though she were my family. So it's a path of expansion, not a path of contraction. If your spiritual path is causing you to contract in your heart, then it's time to reevaluate the path. It should be expanding. You should be loving more and more people every day. You should feel connected to more and more beings every day. Not less and less.